All right, and we're recording.
Roo Becky.
Roo Becky.
Roo
Becky.
Becky.
Hi, welcome back.
Finding Dory was a great movie.
It was a really good movie. I really enjoyed watching it.
National treasure.
Yeah.
Well, international.
The second
treasure.
one was good too, but the first one was the real good one.
That's the one I was talking about. Finding Dory.
Yeah, there's two. There's
Finding
two
Dory
Finding
is
Dories.
the second one. No?
Isn't there?
There's Finding Nemo and there's Finding Dory.
No, there's two Finding Dories.
No, there isn't. Why would there be two Finding Dories?
Why was there
Dory
more
just
than
keeps
one?
getting lost. It's the same plot over and over again. I know she has memory loss, but
I was positive. There's Finding Dory 3. There's Finding Dory 2. Oh, wait.
It's not out yet, though.
It's not out yet.
And those are movie trailer parodies that you're looking at.
This is so confusing. All right, well, enough of Finding Dory. Welcome.
There's only one Finding Dory.
Welcome to the Softbrains.
Welcome to the Softbrains.
I'm Justin.
I'm Clarke.
And we've got a good one for you. I think we're kind of finding our stride, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting used to it. I think last episode was a good
I think
one.
the last one was the best one so far.
Yeah, if we just keep it getting better and better, so.
Yeah, exactly. There's absolutely zero faults. But yeah, I think once we get like proper
Cut
mics...
to sock on microphone. Literally no faults.
Yeah, we're pretty low budget. So if you want to sponsor a new microphone for each of us, let us know.
Please donate to our GoFundMe.
Exactly.
www.gofundme/softbrain/help/
Please
we
help.
have no money.
I'm excited about this one.
Please help.
Last week, what did we talk about? We talked about the
royal breakdown and those
Yeah.
crazy kids that killed that other kid.
Right.
Yeah. So those are both depressing subjects. Did you pick a depressing subject this time?
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's not, it's a very similar, I guess, subject. I kind of connected it to last week. It was kind of a little unintentional, but it was in my topics I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So
if you're new here, what we do is Justin brings an interesting story and Clarke also brings an interesting story or fact or
yeah,
something.
these aren't stories that have happened to us or anything like that.
They're
We're
not
that
necessarily
interesting.
stories.
So
They might be like a topic that
yeah,
one person has done research on.
something that has happened
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, I
News,
hate it when people
etc.
when you start listening to a podcast and then you have no idea what the idea of the podcast is,
Right.
what the premise is.
Right.
Especially if it's the first one you're listening to, so you're like, what the hell? Nobody reads your bio description. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Nobody
and I'm
reads
pretty
it.
sure everybody that's listening to our podcast is new because A, we're new, and B, we have no fans. So it's for us.
A little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
Yeah. Last week we did talk about royals, like you said. You and I.
Oh, so is this your topic about royals? So Justin's going to go first.
Kinda,
this
yeah.
time.
I'm going to get just right into it. I think I'm a little excited, so...
We talked too long about Finding Dory.
Yeah. We ate into our...
Roo, Becky! Roo!
Whatchamacallit, that's stupid. Who was the really dumb... Oh, Gerald the Seal?
Yeah, Gerald.
That was a great character. That's like top 3 Disney characters
I
of
love
all
that
time.
Disney is so inclusive.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about royals last week. You and I will obviously never be royals. Royals. It don't run in our blood. But really, it doesn't run in our blood. So we weren't born into royal lineage, of course.
Are you talking about the two of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking obvious.
So like royal family lines.
Is this your intro?
Yeah, this is my intro to my subject.
We're not royalty.
We're
but
not
let me tell
royalty.
you who is.
So royal family lines are often like centuries old. Like if you look at the current royal family, their lineage goes back. They're House of Windsor. They changed from Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha back in 1917. There was a little bit of anti-German sentiment in Europe because of World War I.
They changed from that?
Yeah, that was their original family house.
Who? The royal family?
The royal
British?
family, yeah. They
Okay.
have German and Austrian roots.
Oh, okay.
So the whole World War I thing happened, that old chestnut. So they thought, let's distance ourselves from our German and Austrian roots. That's not really what my topic about. In fact, all the current royals have really nothing to do with my subject. It's the actual complete opposite. So I kind of wanted to talk about royal inbreeding.
Oh. Fun topic.
Fun topic, right? It's a little bit lighter fare than the last time we met up.
Let's go from brutal murder to inbreeding.
Royal inbreeding,
Royal
not just your
inbreeding.
standard
Okay.
down south inbreeding.
Don't get
royal
it twisted.
inbreeding.
This is royal breeding.
So as time kind of went on, humans obviously realized that inbreeding with your family wasn't exactly smart. So while keeping the gene pool pure, there was too many negative side effects, obviously. So now royal families don't inbreed. But back in the day, they definitely did. So one of the best well-known deformities that was caused by royal inbreeding has German and Austrian roots, just like our favorite royals of today. But it was called the Habsburg jaw.
Habsburg?
Habsburg, correct. It was also called the Habsburg lip or the Austrian lip. The Habsburg jaw is basically a physical condition known by the modern term mandibular prognathism.
Wow, why don't we just go back to Hamburg lip?
Habsburg jaw or MP. We can call it MP for short, I guess.
Okay.
So basically, you have a protruding lower jaw. It's usually accompanied by like a abnormally thick lower lip, and sometimes
so
a
they're
tongue.
literally bottom toothing?
Yeah, well, just like, you know how in Family Guy there's like those rich English folk that have that big bottom jaw and they talk a little bit tough.
Okay.
That's the Habsburgs.
Okay.
That's an actual thing. Just like, actually, like if you look at Lord Farquaad in the Shrek, he was kind of Habsburgy too, and they even talked about Habsburg in one of the movies. I forget which one it was.
In Shrek?
Yeah.
What?
So
Family-friendly subject.
yeah, exactly. So through inbreeding, the Habsburg jaw gained a lot of prevalence in medieval Europe. It was in the late 1400s and early 1500s. Charles II, he was a king. He was the last of the Spanish Habsburgs. He was pretty dumb, pretty unintelligent. I'm not trying to be an ableist, but this guy was pretty dumb. He was physically deformed since his family thought it would be wise to dive into the shallow end of the gene pool. They played around in there. A lady in his family, Joanna of Castile, actually shows up in his family tree over 14 times.
What?
So that's because of like first and second cousins intermarrying. Historians believe that his genetic makeup would have actually been better if his parents had been brother and sister. That's how inbred he was.
What were his parents?
I'm not 100% sure. I think I get into it.
Okay.
I have some notes
Their
on
cousins?
it. I think they're closer than that. They might be like aunt and uncle or something like that. So I'm going to show you a picture of our boy Charles here.
What?
He's kind of got a goofy looking face.
He looks like Mama.
Yeah, he looks like the ghost from Mama.
Everyone ever saw that horror movie? Then right at the end of Mama, they like actually reveal the ghost face, and
Yeah.
she looks
kind of like
she's
a
got
potato.
This jaw.
She has the Habsburg jaw
Yeah,
for sure.
She's inbred for sure.
So you can see the guy's kind of got a big lower lip, big protruding jaw. He wasn't very smart either. That adds to it. But it was kind of a big deal. And
Him being alive?
no, not him well, I guess him being alive is kind of a medical marvel, yeah.
What was the big deal?
Well, so our boy Charles had such bad Habsburg jaw that he actually couldn't chew food very well. And the size of his tongue caused him to actually drool quite a bit as well. So he was basically a dog.
Wasn't there a show where somebody did a shtick about there was a prince in it or something who was like super inbred and he had like all these symptoms,
If you know this, please do let us know.
I think it was like, I feel like Jane Kronowski was in it, the girl from 30 Rock.
Oh.
I don't know if it was 30 Rock, but
Maybe it was 30 Rock.
I don't know if 30 Rock would do that, but maybe.
So, yeah, Charles, he had a big tongue, drooled a lot. He also had mentally problems and was actually considered mildly retarded. Was the terms, of course, used back then. It took the guy 4 years to learn how to talk. Like from an infant to the age of 4. It took him that long to learn to talk.
Is this guy a king?
Yes.
He's in line to be the king.
No, he is a king.
When he was 4 years old, he was the king.
Well, I think 1665 is when he took the throne. It also took him 8 years to learn how to walk.
No, what? Okay.
So this just paints a little bit of a picture of this guy.
Jesus.
Like I said, a little bit inbred. Just a little bit.
A little. This is touch of inbreeding here.
Yeah. When he was a king, a French ambassador was sent to find prospective marriage suitors in the area. Charles II was one of them, so he took a look And he said that the Catholic king is so ugly as to cause fear, and he looks ill. So Charles II...
Wouldn't you hate to have that written about you in history?
Yeah, that'd be terrible. I'm pretty sure he didn't know how to read, so let's be honest, he's probably okay.
And he looks ill.
Yeah. He causes fear. He strikes fear in all of his enemies.
Yikes.
Charles II father, Philip IV, married his niece. So that's why there was further inbreeding further back.
Charles's father married his niece.
Married Philip's, his own niece. So Charles' cousin. Yeah. He was Charles' Uncle Daddy, I guess.
Uncle Daddy?
Yeah. So on top of all that, the guy's dumb, he drools, he's got a thick tongue. He was also sterile.
Thick tongue.
He couldn't have kids.
Isn't that like a common thing with inbreeding that people?
Exactly, especially when you're that inbred, right? Yeah. So unfortunately,
what's the thought process behind that?
I'm pretty sure nature's telling you just to stop having kids with your family.
Obviously, this is a clear sign. Don't do this.
Literally,
don't have any more.
Cutting you off from the tap.
I'm cutting you off.
No more. So you couldn't have kids. Unfortunately, with Charles II, that's where the family throne rights ended for the old Habsburgs. Charlie died just before his 39th birthday, and he died in 1700. He had no heirs to the throne.
Good.
Yes, exactly. So it marked the end. It was 16 generations of inbreeding in the Habsburg family.
Okay.
So it went back quite a ways. It's clear to see why old God just said, nope, we're done with you.
Old God coming in with the old snip.
Yeah. So Spain actually ended up going to war to decide on an heir to the throne. The war lasted 13 years, and at the end, Philip V began the House of Bourbon, my favorite house. So the current ruler of Spain...
on the rocks?
Yeah.
House of Bourbon on the rocks.
That'd be a great drink. But it's served in bread.
Oh.
The current...
Can we get a snare drum for jokes just like that one?
So the current ruler of Spain, King Juan Carlos I, is actually a distant relative of the House of Habsburg. Even he himself shows a little bit of the characteristics. He has a slight Habsburg jaw, the protruding jaw. Marie Antoinette also showed signs of MP or the Habsburg jaw.
How far did these people get around?
The Holy Roman Emperors, Charles V and Ferdinand I, they were also Habsburg and also had Habsburg jaws. So they got around, like you said.
Jesus.
But not too far.
Not
too far. They didn't spread it too far. Okay. Just far enough to kind of still expand their family.
Just far enough to affect all royal families.
Yeah. Going back even further, so not the Habsburgs any longer, Egyptian royalty actually did the same thing, inbreeding to keep the bloodline pure. So have you ever heard of, I think it's Ptolemy? It's like Ptolemy, Ptolemy, but I think it's Ptolemy is how it's pronounced.
Ptolemy.
Bless you. So the Ptolemaic dynasty was a Greek royal family. They ruled the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt for 275 years.
Okay.
Long time.
That's a long time.
How
long ago was this? How long are we talking in history?
We're talking several thousand years ago. Like, this is before Cleopatra. Cleopatra is actually a descendant of Ptolemy.
Okay.
So they were the last dynasty of ancient Egypt. So introducing your boy Ptolemy. He took this name Ptolemy. That wasn't his birth name. I'm not 100% sure what his actual birth name was. But he was one of the seven...
So it's not the dynasty that was named after him. He took the name of the dynasty.
He took Oh, nice dynasty. Thank you. I will take this.
I'll take that. This can be
No, he named himself Ptolemy, and then the dynasty spread from him.
Okay, gotcha.
So he was one of the 7 somatophylakes, or bodyguards, of Alexander the Great. Oh. So he wasn't just some dude.
Somatophylakes.
Yeah.
I want a somatophylake. That sounds delicious.
It does sound good. It sounds awfully tasty. So he was one of Alexander the Great's 7 bodyguards. They were 7 men that were drawn from different Macedonian royal families.
We could do like a whole podcast on the Macedonians.
Oh, for sure.
So much history.
We'll get to it's forever ago, so there's not too much hanging around, but there's still lots of info that you can kind of pick and choose.
Yeah.
There's interest. I really like this kind of stuff, which is why I did it. Imagine that.
Softbrain.
So one of these 7 men, they also acted as high-ranking military officers. They sometimes had command positions like general. The Macedonians under Alexander the Great brought in the Hellenistic period in Egypt from 332 BC to 309 BC. So that's this is giving you time frame now. So you're talking 2,300 years ago.
What is the Hellenistic period?
Pretty sure it's kind of like I'm guessing like Helen of Troy. But that's
in Egypt.
But in Egypt, yes. It was kind of Greek rule in Egypt.
Oh.
So it covers Hellenistic is a period that covers Mediterranean history between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 and the emergence of the Roman Empire as signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC.
Because anyone out there, well, maybe someone out there is a history buff and understands exactly what these things
Somebody
are.
might look it up.
So
he brought in this period under Alexander the Great kind of thing. So Alexander the Great, like I said, died in 323 BC. Ptolemy was appointed the satrap of Egypt. Satrap. That's kind of like the governor of the area, I guess. So within a short time, Egyptians ended up accepting the Ptolemies, the Ptolemy family, as the successors to the pharaohs of independent Egypt. So pharaohs kind of went out, and then Ptolemy came in, and he actually declared himself the natural successor to the pharaohs. And the Egyptians are like, you seem like a pretty good guy. Okay, we believe that.
He was like, I'm king now.
Right.
Me now.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. So he was appointed, like I said, the satrap or the governor of Egypt. But then he's like, well, I want to be a pharaoh because pharaohs happened. So let me be a pharaoh.
Pharaohs are better.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want that sweet pharaoh title.
All male rulers in the family, in the Ptolemaic dynasty, they took the name Ptolemy. So the Queen Regnant, which we talked about last week.
Queen Regnant. Wow. Throwback.
I threw that in just for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Or if you didn't listen to that, that's the wife of the male ruler. They were normally called one of 3 names, Cleopatra, Arsinoe, or Berenice. So obviously Cleopatra, that's where she got her name from. So Egyptian belief in ancient Egypt was that the god Osiris married his sister Isis, and that was to keep their bloodline pure. So that's that's
written into Egyptian history.
Right, exactly. So that's the whole reason why they were
this is chill. God did it, so it's fine.
Exactly. So he basically knocked on his sister's door and said, Osiris did it, so we might as well too.
That's a line there.
Heard it here first. Use that pickup line and tell us how it goes.
Ew.
Osiris did it first. So the Ptolemy family, they started following that custom because ancient Egypt was following that custom. They were expected to marry their brother or sister. Once in a while, you'd get the holy grail of incestuous marriages. So a male sibling would marry the daughter of a brother and sister couple.
Ew.
So you were a double niece.
What?
You're a niece squared.
That is
You're no uncle daddy, but you're a double niece.
Ew.
So a little bit of a tangent, but kind of in the same vein.
The holy grail of incestuous relationships.
King Tut was the product of a brother-sister marriage. And he had some weird stuff going on with him. Like, his wife, Ankhesemun, I believe is her name. I had to spell it out.
You spelled it out phonetically?
Yeah, Ankhesemun.
I like how you wrote double niece in all caps at the top there.
Yeah.
Nice notes.
No, good notes, right? So King Tut was most likely the product of brother and sister marriage. It was possible that his wife was either his full or half sister, or his niece. One of them. They're not really too sure. I was reading a thing kind of oddly related after I did all this research about how they did some DNA testing and they've confirmed without a doubt that he was the product of incest. So
King Tut.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a weak guy. like super frail. He was kind of like little Voldemort in Harry Potter in the Goblet of Fire when he has
Before
that.
he becomes full of Voldemort.
Yeah, when he has that.
And they take him out of the cauldron.
That body, yeah.
And they take him out of the cauldron, and then
And he's
Wormtail
all
cuts off his hand.
Yeah.
And then
That's
and
kind
then
of
Voldemort becomes full Voldemort.
yeah.
So he was the baby version of that
Yeah, he was King Tut.
little infantile Voldemort.
He's a frail, weak little old man. Yeah. So he had a club foot, a cleft palate, scoliosis. He was missing bones in his feet.
What?
And he also had an elongated skull due to inbreeding. So the back of his skull,
Ooh.
much like we were, our namesake, has that protuberance at the back of their head.
Yeah.
So imagine a
Central
human.
protuberance.
Yeah. Imagine a human with a huge
Soft brain.
soft brain.
He's a soft brain.
He is the first soft brain, I
This
guess.
is
right?
why you don't have babies with your niece.
Yeah.
He's missing bones in his feet, people.
He's got.
Don't have sex with your family.
He's
And
pretty
that's the end of
screwed
this episode. Just kidding. That's the conclusion.
up. So let's go back to the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Yes.
So King Tut, real weird dude.
Okay.
And he died really young, too. He was in his teens, I think, when King Tut died.
Turns out everybody in history died young.
Yeah, everybody.
I mean, if you really look into it.
It had to do with the inbreeding, I'm pretty sure. So the Ptolemaic dynasty, they definitely appropriated Egyptian culture. Those bastards, right? So they were wearing traditional clothing, following Egyptian religion, and speaking the language of Egyptians.
But really, they were Romans, right?
They were Greeks, I believe.
Oh, Greeks. Yes.
Not all was great due to inbreeding, obviously. So yeah, they had a nice, big, powerful family, but they themselves were actually described as obese with swollen necks. They had proptosis of the eyes and Graves' disease, so your eyes were bulging out of your skull. They had Erdheim-Chester disease and multifocal fibrosclerosis.
MS.
They could have had all of these at any given time concurrently. Like, they were not a very healthy family.
Swollen neck, bulging eyes.
Yeah, bendy backs, bulging eyes. They were just like Voldemort, too. So I do have the Ptolemaic dynasty here, kind of a family tree that we can end up posting for people, too. So up here is Ptolemy the First. You can kind of see he's not too overly inbred, like he's the product of a brother sister. He had kids and who also ended up having kids with his sister. It's just in general things.
There's so many lines that are connecting where they shouldn't be connecting.
It's not too great.
Illegitimate children.
Yeah.
Also, there's a star for illegitimate children.
We'll get to that. So there were illegitimate children kind of up here.
Up in this tree.
Yeah, so that we'll get to that once we start talking more about Cleopatra, because she had we have technical difficulties here. She had an illegitimate child with Julius Caesar. Funnily enough.
What? Cleopatra did?
Yeah.
We should watch that 30-hour-long Oscar movie, Cleopatra.
It's supposed to be quite good, but isn't there a lot of weird sex scenes in that movie as well?
It's also 3 hours long. No, it's literally almost 4 hours long. Ooh, squeaky chair.
Squeaky chair, sorry.
Squeaky chair making its featured appearance
once again.
Couple times per episode.
Squeaky chair and the sock mic of doom. So Ptolemy the Eighth, compared to the rest of his family, was actually quite genetically diverse. So where is Ptolemy the Eighth? Over here. So his mom actually wasn't part of the Ptolemy family.
I like how they don't have any names. It's just Ptolemy this one, Ptolemy 1, Ptolemy 2, Ptolemy 3, Ptolemy 4.
Yeah,
They certainly weren't known for their creativity.
They were like the bananas and pajamas, and they all wore the same thing, but they had Ptolemy 1 on their neck and Ptolemy 2.
The Ptolemies in
pajamas.
Yeah. Coming down the stairs.
So, compared to the rest,
somehow getting down the stairs. With
their club feet and their their bulgy fisheye lens eyes. So he was pretty genetically diverse. His mom was not Ptolemaic. Okay, it has nothing to do with them being inbred, but this is a kind of an interesting story that I found. He killed his nephew Ptolemy the Seventh to gain the throne. He then married his sister.
So weird that he's the 8th and the 7th is his nephew. Like, nah, something's not adding up there.
I know. So Ptolemy the 7th was killed, so Ptolemy 8th could take the throne. He then went and married his sister, who was the mother of the murdered Ptolemy the 7th.
Okay.
He went and cheated on her with, guess who? Their daughter.
Okay.
He then proceeded to exile all intellectuals from Egypt because he realized, hey, I'm pretty stupid from all this inbreeding, so all the book smart people, you best be gone.
You're not allowed to be smarter than me.
Roman dignitaries even noted that he was too fat to properly walk.
What?
So when his wife proclaimed their son, so again, his wife, who was his sister, proclaimed their son, his nephew's son, to be the new pharaoh, he killed the son.
Why?
Because he wanted to be on the
forever?
throne. Yeah, he was Ptolemy the 8th. Man.
I'm in charge.
I'm in charge, me and my elongated skull and bulging eyes. So obviously these people, they're having a tough go. To wrap it up, though,
I'm having a tough go listening to
I know it's kind of
because they're like that.
that's scary.
Yeah.
You've got to. I guess they finally maybe realized. Like, I understand this is 2,300 years ago, but you have to realize that maybe having children with your sister and your niece isn't a good thing.
Well, like, it just, like, proves, like, evolution and Darwinism. Because, like, I feel like most of us have evolved past this as a society.
Right.
But this used to be literally the people that were our royals and were in charge of things.
Exactly.
Like...
You would think, oh, hey, yeah, sure, we have the royal blood, but why does Nick over there have a club foot and I've got these bulging eyes and everybody else is okay?
What's happening here? Something's not adding up.
Like, but I guess, again, they weren't too smart, so they couldn't really make that connection.
Exactly. It's like a vicious cycle.
So maybe everybody else knew.
Maybe everyone else was like, here comes old clubfoot bulgy eyes down the street.
That's why they kicked everyone out, maybe.
Loyal subjects.
Hello, my loyal subjects. So the last in the Ptolemaic inbred lineage was Cleopatra the 7th. That's the Cleopatra that we all know of.
The famous Cleopatra.
Right. Who everybody knows the fact about how she lives closer to present day than she does of the actual original pharaohs of Egypt.
Yeah. Wasn't she like in the
She reigned for 21 years, from 51 BC to 30 BC.
Oh, okay.
She took the throne from Ptolemy the 12th.
Okay.
So she had various kids. One was an illegitimate child with Julius Caesar, who was captured and killed shortly after Cleopatra's death. Mm-hmm. Not Julius, the son. She had 3 children with Marcus Antonius, who was a Roman politician in general.
Old Mark Tony.
Yeah, Mark Antony, yeah. Isn't that a designer? Oh, no, that's Marc Jacobs.
No, but isn't
Mark Anthony and also
Mark
another
Anthony
famous person?
Is
somebody else?
Something.
I'm not too sure, but the name does sound familiar. That's
it
why.
Sounds like a famous name. It's got to be famous.
Unless it's just we're thinking like Mark
As a
Jacobs.
singer.
It is a singer? What has he sung?
Mark Anthony. Oh, you know what? He used to be married to Jennifer Lopez.
Okay. Maybe he's an inbred too.
He also was a Roman politician. Is that the same guy?
Yeah.
Mark Antony?
Must be.
Yeah. Oh, yes. He was married to Cleopatra. It's the same guy. Okay. Wow. Soft brain.
Effectively, with Cleopatra's death, the inbred lineage of the Ptolemaic family, as well as the reign of Egyptian pharaohs, it ended. That was the end of the pharaohs. Because after that, the Holy Roman Empire took over, and pharaohs were never pharaohs again.
They were like, you guys keep sleeping with your sisters, so we're going to come in
here. The Romans
here.
were no better, though. The Romans were all freaks, too.
Yeah.
All oiling each other up.
We're going to come in with our orgies and our grapes, because it's better.
The greased up deaf guy, that's kind of like what they all were.
Ooh.
So legend has it, Cleopatra, she made a viper or a cobra bite her and died from the venom.
Yeah.
That's his legend.
I think that's not true, right?
The cause of death isn't actually known, but they didn't find the snake, but they actually did find puncture marks on her arms So they could have been from some type of needle or like a thin bone where she put poison in or something like
She
that.
OD'd.
Maybe she maybe she OD'd.
She
Who
OD'd
knows?
on heroin.
OD'd on the old.
This just in:
He-Man.
Cleopatra OD'd on heroin.
Do you know where I can score some of that viper venom?
Ooh.
But it could have been caused from some type of needle. So she died. That was the end of the pharaohs, the Egyptian great dynasties, and the Holy Roman Empire took over from there. So royal inbreeding. The current royals, they didn't prescribe to that same thinking, obviously. They weren't inbreeding too much. They kind of knew by then, so they were saved. But what's interesting is the current royal family, a lot of people in the current royal family are hemophilic, so they can't clot their blood.
Yeah.
So I think that started with Queen Victoria, and there's a bunch of people in the royal family that have hemophilia because it passes down,
It's
right?
genetic.
So they were unlucky that they weren't just carriers of it, and they're actually
Have it.
they show the gene.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the royal family currently, because they have
But
so
not
many
as
of
that's
them.
not as a result of inbreeding.
No,
right?
that's just the fact of them having so many kids.
But if you went far enough back, there's probably something.
Oh, for
inbreeding
sure.
In the
Everybody did
royal
it.
family.
It was young and it was hip. It was like fanny
funny.
packs today.
It was #lit.
Yeah, because you have to be inbred
Inbreeding
to,
#lit.
to wear a fanny pack. That's my opinion.
Oh,
You heard it here first.
Justin has controversial.
I called you
opinions
all
about
out.
fanny
Don't
packs.
wear them.
They're back in style now. All of them Instagram
Yeah.
models are gonna come for you. That
That's
was
okay.
interesting in a weird, fucked up kind of way.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of weird,
Gross.
especially the Habsburg jaw. And like, yeah, if you look at Lord Farquaad, he had kind of bulgy eyes and a big chin too. And especially the guy on Family Guy that talks with the bottom toother
He's got
or
the
whatever.
bottom toother, yeah. I was trying to think about things that Lord Farquaad says. Some of you may die. That's when he sends out all the guys to go get Princess Fiona. That
Right.
Shrek, the first Shrek is great. Lord
First Shrek is
Farquaad was the best part of Shrek, and he is.
Has like Eddie Murphy and Mike Myers, have they really done anything else?
They don't
other
need
than
to.
Shrek?
Do you know how much money they made off those fucking movies?
I checked the other day on Shrek on IMDb, and there was like 14 titles or something. Like between the TV shorts
Oh,
and
yeah.
the movies, the Christmas
It's
specials.
like its own empire.
It's its own
the
universe.
Shrek Empire.
Yeah.
And after the Roman Empire, we had the Shrek Empire.
The Great Shreks. Did they? That's by DreamWorks.
Yeah, so
Shrek?
DreamWorks, like, whenever they get a popular movie, like Shrek or How to Train Your Dragon,
beat it
they
to
just run with it, because they're like, we don't make enough money as Disney on one movie, so we need to make multiple so that we can make anywhere even close to Disney.
Right. That makes sense.
It's a
though.
business strategy,
Well,
and
yeah,
it
for
works.
sure. And it works, because people like the movies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But even, I'd say Pixar movies don't make as much as Disney main studio movies
I don't know.
make, right?
I'm not sure. Like, some Pixar movies have done, like, really well. Like, you look at, like, Incredibles 2 did really, really well. And
Isn't that Pixar too?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Pixar movies do really
Yeah.
well. But
Well,
I don't know.
Toy Story and
But
stuff.
then you look at like Frozen. Frozen was so fucking big that
Yeah.
nothing can even come close to Frozen.
So weird, because Disney controls everything now.
Every
Because I'm pretty sure
they
the merger.
even control the soft brain. Just kidding. They are not
We're not under
controlling
anyone's
us.
control. Unless you want to, Disney. Send me a big cardboard check,
You
please.
can control me, baby.
But yeah, because Disney they merged with Fox, I believe, and now they laid off a bunch, like thousands of people lost their jobs.
Yeah, I know, because they had a bunch of people coming in from both sides.
And Disney has we were talking about this earlier, how Disney has the 3 movies that have made $700 million domestically are all Disney movies.
Huh? Say that again?
The 3 movies that have made $700 million domestic, not international, are Disney movies.
At
The Force
what
Awakens.
period of time?
In 7 months, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's Avatar and The Force
not 7
Awakens,
months.
and then something recent. I forget what the Disney movie
It's not
was.
7
recent.
months. What are you talking about? The Force Awakens came out like 3
I
years
know,
ago,
but
and
I'm
Avatar
saying
came out
in
six-
7 months it made over $700 million.
Oh, like each movie.
Right.
Okay. This
All
is
right.
how we write things down.
So what did you bring?
Okay, so I brought something about culture-bound syndromes. So I wanted to talk about some type of like psychological disorder.
That are found in specific cultures?
Well, depends on the culture. There are syndromes that are bound to certain cultures. So this I'll just kind of give you a definition of what sometimes it's called culture bound and sometimes it's called culturally bound. I don't know which one, but basically culturally bound syndrome, according to the head of psychiatry at the University of Oklahoma, is defined as certain trance-like disturbances that occur with unusual frequencies in certain societies. So this can be like a wide variety of things depending on the culture, and we will get into like more of what the symptoms are. But a lot of them are the same throughout the cultures, but it just kind of, there's different types of this.
Okay, so it affects specific people in a geographical area, like that kind of culture, or a genetic culture?
Well, I will give you some examples, and you can kind of determine it, because it's kind of not really like it's in the DSM, but it's not really like, there's some controversy out there about
the DSM is like the handbook of psychology stuff, right?
So DSM stands for forget something. I have it in here somewhere.
The
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Right. And
yes. Sorry.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So basically, they don't when they recognize a psychological disorder, they put it into the DSM. Mm-hmm. So not everything is in the DSM. Like some things get added and some things get taken out. Like the DSM changes like often because we're still learning a lot about like mental disorders and psychology.
Oh, yeah, all the time, of course.
So one example of what people have called a culture-bound syndrome is called Taijin Kaiofusho. Do you know where this is from?
It sounds possibly Japanese.
That's correct. So the term Taijin Kaiofusho translates basically into fear of interpersonal relations. So fear of
people.
Yes.
Interacting with people.
Yes. So
social anxieties.
You've probably heard about Japan, they have kind of a social issue.
They have a social issue, yeah, especially with men finding women for repopulation.
Yes, yeah. So they have a whole that's a whole other thing, but maybe this is tied into that in a way.
Yeah, maybe.
Because those who have Taijin Kaiofusho are likely to be extremely embarrassed about themselves or feel fearful of displeasing others when it comes to functions of their bodies or their appearance. So usually they're scared of what their faces look like, or a really common symptom is scared that they have body odor all the time, or what they do, or the way that they look. So they don't want to embarrass other people by their presence.
So body odor on Asian people, you know how stereotypically Asian people usually don't have a body odor or don't need deodorant? Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. And I believe it's because they don't carry a specific bacteria on their body. It's either a bacteria on their body or an enzyme in their body that they don't carry.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was they didn't use deodorant, therefore I
they
thought
don't
it was
smell.
They don't smell. I thought it was one of those things where it's kind of self-fulfilling, you use deodorant because you smell, but if you didn't use deodorant at all, then you wouldn't smell.
Yeah, no, it's an actual biological reason why they don't smell.
We should talk about it. They got that non-smelly gene.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll talk about it. We'll see.
This culture-bound syndrome is a social phobia, and it's based on fear and anxiety. Mm-hmm. Some symptoms of this are, other than the body odor thing and all that stuff, they will avoid social outings and activities. They'll have a rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, panic attacks, trembling, blushing is a really big one, and feelings of dread or panic. So in the U.S., anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness, and that affects roughly 18% of the U.S. population.
I thought it would have been even more.
18% is pretty high.
It is pretty high.
And I don't know if this is self-reported or if...
That's tough to say.
I'm not sure. This might not include people that self-diagnose themselves, right?
Right.
So TKS, Taijin Kaiofusho,
TKS,
occurs in 10 to 20% of people in Japan. There's not a for sure number out there. Mm-hmm. I've heard 3 and 13%, but it's estimated around 17% is kind of the where people have landed. It's somewhere around there. What's interesting is that in the Western world, social phobias are more prevalent in women than in men. But in Japan, this social phobia TKS is much more common in men.
So that kind of does go back to what we were saying earlier about how
how men aren't getting girlfriends.
And it's a big problem with the population being regenerated. Right?
Yeah, so this is more common in men than it is in women, which by contrast here, it's always women who, or at least report it more. But I think that also has to do with the fact that men don't get help for mental disorders.
Oh, for sure. I know there's got to be a ton of neckbeards sitting in their basement not interacting with the pole. Never mind with people.
Well, or just people in general that might be struggling with anxiety or depression, but
don't
go see a doctor, right? Yeah. And women are more likely to go see doctors. So I think it's all kind of tied in here. It's not necessarily that women experience more, just maybe they report
It's reported more, found more.
Anyway. This Taishin Kaiofusho was listed as a culturally bound phobia of Japan in the DSM in the year 2000.
That's a long time ago already.
Yeah. But that being said, there is some debate about whether or not it is actually a culturally bound syndrome.
Yeah, I don't know if it's culturally bound because doesn't every culture experience it?
Well, we'll get into a little bit more of that because there's an interesting study about this. TKS, one notable thing is that they're always afraid of offending other people. But between a Western society, they're scared of embarrassing themselves, right?
Okay, yeah.
So this comes down to the difference between individualistic societies and collectivist societies.
Right.
So collectivist cultures are very concerned with what other people think and what their families think, right? And individualistic, we're concerned about our own stuff, right?
It's more selfish, yeah.
Yes. So generally, Western culture is individualistic, and collectivist is generally seen in Asian cultures.
Mm-hmm. Especially India would probably be another one, like China.
Yes.
Really all of East
Asia.
Korea.
Mm-hmm. Taishin Kaiofusho can be subdivided into 4 subcategories. I'm not going to read the Japanese names because they're too hard, but basically...
You couldn't spell it out like I did?
Well, Sekimen Kaiofusho.
Yeah.
That's the phobia of blushing. Shubo Kaiofusho, the phobia of a deformed body, which some people have linked to body dysmorphic disorder, right? Which is a real thing that people in Western culture experience a lot. Then we have Jaiko Shaisen Kaiofusho, which is the phobia of eye contact. And then we have Jaikoshu Kaiofu, the phobia of having foul body odor.
So those are the more popular ones?
Right. So those are kind of the branches of this, but we have kind of versions of this, like body dysmorphic disorder, olfactory reference syndrome, which is when you're scared of your body odor. Mm-hmm. But one thing that's pretty exclusive to Eastern Asia is the eye contact thing, because Japanese children are taught that direct eye contact is rude, while Western cultures place an importance on direct eye contact. Right. So that thing's pretty exclusive to East Asia. Typically, it's triggered in childhood. There is a type of therapy that can be used to help this. It's called Morita therapy. This was developed in 1910. Wow. Okay, so this, TKS has been a thing for a long time.
Mm-hmm. They've known about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Basically, you get them to lie down and do, diary writing and manual labor. It's kind of to take your mind off this, TKS and stuff.
Keep yourself preoccupied.
Mm-hmm. So when it was first diagnosed, people thought it was only found in Japan. However, more recent research has kind of found this not Japan specific. There was a study done between Indonesia and Switzerland where they measured levels of self-construal, is what they call it. The Singlis self-construal scale, which assesses interdependent and independent self-construal, whatever. I'll give you an example.
All right.
It means they ask questions like, I enjoy being unique and different from others in many respects. And then they would rate yes, I enjoy this thing, or I really dislike this thing.
Right,
really
so 1 to 5 personality test type things.
Yeah, so I actually found this study and I kind of read through the study, and it's actually quite interesting. Basically, the results of the study indicated that it's probably not just Japanese, but that it's present in most collectivist cultures.
Right.
So this is what they basically have suggested.
Which makes sense, because is it nature versus nurture there then, right?
Right. Well, I think it would mostly be nurture, because...
But at what point does nurture turn into nature? If all your ancestors have told you not to look somebody in the eye, would you eventually be predisposed to not look somebody in the eye being born?
I'd be curious to see like what this study would be in like an individual who's like a third generation immigrant or something like that.
Yeah.
And if they would have like these symptoms, or if
you would change.
Yes. So I'm curious about that. But
Curiouser.
But I don't know. I don't have anything about that. So, so basically, Indonesia, it's actually found that they definitely showed signs of TKS symptoms. And there's some serious issues in Indonesia with like there's no support for basically psychological disorders, and there's very little research on it. Despite Indonesia being the fourth largest nation in the world, there's 237 million people that live there. If you search for literature on social anxiety disorders or social phobia in Indonesia, that yields only 4 publications in PubMed and 0 publications in PsycInfo.
They're just really not.
So they don't do any research. They don't really focus on it at all. Even if you estimate that the number of Indonesian people with social phobia was like 2%, that's still 5 million people, right?
But I guess if that's what your culture is, you wouldn't deem it as a problem either, though, right?
Well, I know. Yeah, that's the tough thing, right?
Because is it a problem? That's the question.
Well, we don't know enough. We haven't done enough research, right? But present findings has found that social anxiety may be a clinically relevant problem in Indonesia, which you're just saying.
Right.
Like, we don't know if it is, but it has been neglected in a way that it was kind of very similar, neglected in Western societies until about the 1980s when people started to care about mental health in Western societies.
More than before. Still not really cared about, but...
Yeah. What like kind of indicates this, that there's a problem, is that there's a really high discrepancy between the high rate of self-reported social anxiety disorders and TKS symptoms in comparison to research in clinical settings where people have reported it. But self-reports are really high.
That's not really... And self-reports are hard to judge, too.
It is, too. But that's kind of suggesting that there is a problem and that there's not enough resources for the people that are struggling with this. So that's kind of TKS, which is kind of the major, like the first thing that I started researching. But then I found out that there's other culture-bound syndromes, and some of them are really weird and really interesting because I got like kind of down this hole.
Yeah, you go down a rabbit hole when you're looking at stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so one that's kind of similar to TKS is called anthropophobia, which is interpersonal relation phobia, so it's social phobia.
Fear of people.
Yeah, so basically... the TKS is like a specific form of this, of anthropophobia. So that's kind of more general word for it. Okay, here's a really weird one. It's called grissy sickness.
Grissy?
Grissy sickness. GRISISIKNIS. Greasy sickness. I get that after I have McDonald's.
Yeah.
Greasy sickness. So it's a contagious culture-bound syndrome that occurs predominantly among the mosquito people. M-I-S-K-I-T-O.
Where are they located? Where are they from?
Central America. Okay. Eastern Central America, and affects mainly young women. More recently, they have seen some cases of people of Spanish descent. So basically what it is, greasy sickness, is typically characterized by long periods of anxiety, nausea, dizziness, and irrational anger and fear, interlaced with short periods of rapid frenzy in which the victim will lose consciousness, and they believe that the devil has beat them and have had sexual relations with them, and then they run away.
And it's contagious.
Yes. I know. It sounds freaking crazy.
Something doesn't sound right.
I did find like a little video of this. It's really weird. So the causes of this are kind of unknown, according to the American Psychology Association. But they call this a syndrome, a psychological disorder due to stress, upheaval, and despair. So they think that this commonly happens when like the society is not doing well.
Right.
So traditionally, basically, the people there believe that greasy sickness is the result of evil spirits or black sorcerers, while Western medicine has said,
no.
No,
You're wrong.
Symptoms of them vary, but almost always it occurs in young girls from 15 to 18 years old. Basically, they start with a headache, and then they get dizzy, and then they start getting nauseous. And then they will start running around, and they might, like, see other people as the devil.
Right.
And apparently there's been reported that they feel no pain of bodily injuries, and they have absolute amnesia afterwards.
To me, it sounds like they've taken something.
They're all on bath salts.
Well, no, not necessarily that.
No,
but say if it was
not. They haven't. There's been so many cases of this.
I understand. So what I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to reason as to why. Like, it can't be just a mental thing that's contagious.
Yes, it can. Justin, there's more. This happens all over the world. This is not the only thing. Just wait.
What I was thinking was that, say if they were, especially because it was women between 15 and 18, say if it was something that they were using for, let's say, like, menstruation or something. Say if it was, like, something they used to clean themselves.
You're saying they're just on their period?
Not what I'm saying.
She's running around with a machete.
Yeah.
Go the devil!
But no, say if it was while they were on their period or something like that, they were using a salve or something that they made to help with the bleeding or something. Like they were using something on their body that was made naturally in the area.
I mean, I don't think so, but, like, you'll see when I talk about the other ones. This happens in other parts of the world where it's not women, where it's men. It's weird, okay? This is just weird psychological response to stress, I think. But I don't know for sure. So some grab machetes, actually, and broken bottles, and they will, like, try to attack people. Some victims report that they have performed superhuman feats, like suddenly gotten really strong. Vomited strange objects, such as spiders, hair, and coins. And spoken in tongues. But, you know, none of that's, like, confirmed.
Yeah.
But basically, they're like The Exorcist.
Sounds like bath salts, yeah.
Yeah. In some cases, the semi-conscious victim will speak the names of the next to be infected, although it is not always accurate. It is still highly contagious. So, like, once one person starts doing this, it's, like, through the village. And, like,
that's weird.
Yeah, really weird. They report, like, lots of, like, different hallucinations of, like, the devil, and, like, it feels like they're in, like, a horrifying nightmare. And a lot of them have to do with sexual experiences, but this is kind of disputed because not all of them have to do with sexual encounters, but yeah. So that's, like, one of them. So greasy sickness over in Central America.
That's so weird.
But then, have you ever heard the term to run amok?
Yes.
This comes from a culturally bound syndrome called running amok, which was in Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia and Indonesia, which was an episode of sudden mass assault against people and or objects, usually by a single individual following a period of brooding that has traditionally been regarded as occurring especially in those cultures. So basically, this syndrome amok is actually found in the DSM as well.
Right.
Like this
so it's a known thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has been going on forever. So you have Central America on one side of the world, and then you also have Southeastern Asia, where they're also having a thing that's similar to this, where people run around and get violent, like, suddenly.
Right. It's kind of like, what it reminds me of is that whole thing about the dancing plague. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
That's like a culturally bound syndrome.
Maybe like the Salem witch trials. I know that there's history of it also being having to do with EGOT or whatever, or ergot, or was the mold on wheat or something like that. But maybe it was just a cultural thing.
Syndrome. It's so weird that we can have such a strong effect on each other, and that certain things are contagious and you wouldn't even realize it. So,
Weird.
According to Malaysia and Indonesian cultures, amok was rooted in a deep spiritual belief. They believe that it was caused by an evil tiger spirit that entered your body and caused the heinous act. Mm-hmm. So they tolerated it. They were just like, he's just
it's a part of life,
by that old evil tiger spirit. Usually it was an individual by himself, often male, who had shown no previous signs of anger or any inclination of violence. And they will usually acquire a weapon and attempt to kill or seriously injure anyone he encounters and then themselves. That's, like, what they do.
Right.
Usually takes place in a well-populated or crowded area. And they normally end with the attacker being killed by bystanders or committing suicide. Those who do not commit suicide and are not killed typically lose consciousness and upon regaining consciousness claim amnesia.
I wonder how this could possibly relate to
Like
violence in the
terrorism?
States.
I know. I'm also like, there should be more research on
Yeah.
this.
That's weird.
It's really weird.
Especially just because a lot of like there's people that they find with no motive or anything like that that commit violent crime
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people. Well,
And the United States does have a problem, unlike any other country, really, right?
yes, like it's exclusive to that culture, and if it is a response to like despair with the economy, like or whatever,
Makes sense.
or the
Lots of despair
society.
going on in the States.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you never know, right? So this was added to the DSM in 1849. Oh, no, wait, sorry, that's not right. In 1849, it was officially classified as a psychiatric condition,
Okay.
and then added to the modern DSM.
So, but I'd like to see if they ever look back into that at all.
I don't know.
Once it's added.
Well, no, they do.
in?
They like reevaluate the DSM like
Okay.
every year, and they like make changes to it all the time.
Okay.
So there are two different types of amok disorder. Bear amok is considered to be the most common of the two, and this is usually when resulting from a loss or from like someone dying or divorce or loss of job. And
Grief.
yeah, basically this is their response to it. Amok, the rarer form, is believed to stem from rage, insult, or like they want revenge against someone. And that's been more closely related with actual like psychosis disorders.
Right.
So something like bipolar or schizophrenia. So you have greasy sickness, you have amok, running amok, and then you have this thing called piblocto, which is known for people
That's what
that
King
live
Tut had.
within Arctic Circle. No, that's not what he had.
Blocktoe.
Maybe inbreeding is a culture Brown syndrome.
Maybe. Well, I guess really it kind of is.
In a way, yes. Yeah, piblocto occurs in the Arctic Circle among Inuits, and basically it's a hysterical reaction that happens often amongst women.
I'm going to just throw this out there. In Canada, it's not a racial thing to call people Inuit. I know in some cultures
No,
it is.
Inuit's okay. Eskimo's not, right?
Well, and that depends too. In both of them depend.
I don't know.
Like certain people in Canada are okay with it. Some people aren't. Some people in Alaska, it's totally different. Same thing with like Russian native type.
Well, Wikipedia said it, so I can say it. So
That's how it works.
yeah. So this happens mainly amongst women. It's the same thing. It's like these great, like, crazy. Excuse
me, dog.
It's like a crazy anxiety, and they perform irrational or dangerous acts, and then they have amnesia afterwards. So it's the same thing. But in 1988, there was some Parks Canada historian, Lyle Dick, was like, nah, this doesn't exist. This is not a real thing. He's basically said no. So I don't know. There's some controversy about piblocto.
Right.
Some people have suggested that cultural bound syndrome in Western culture is bulimia and anorexia, because that's a problem that's very exclusive to Western culture. So they think that could possibly be a cultural bound syndrome based on like our pressure of society,
Right.
certain expectations.
There's a lot of things that could lead to that, but it's
But you really think about it. Technically, everything is a cultural bound
everything that you do, every quirk about you could be a
but these
cultural
are
bound syndrome.
this more specific.
Right.
Falling out. You know the term falling out.
Yeah, to have a falling out.
But is also a cultural bound syndrome. It's described as a constricted consciousness as a psychological response to anxiety and specific stressors, and that results in it's sometimes a dizziness and spinning sensation.
Spitting or spinning?
Spinning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he just turn into a sprinkler?
They can usually hear and understand what is going on around them. Sprinklers can't do that.
They can't. No, you're right.
It's not treated as an illness. It's just kind of a thing that happens, basically, and it's kind of a weird thing. It's primarily reported in the southern United States and the Caribbean.
Yeah. There's got to be so many of them that are just not named at this point. Like,
for sure.
Especially, you're right, like anorexia and bulimia, that's completely a Western
Well, and
thing.
what about school shootings?
Yeah.
Like, could this be a cultural
mass
bound syndrome?
mass
Like,
violence
because they don't
attacks
have
and stuff.
that at all. And if you look at, like,
They have attacks and stuff, but
not
it's
school
not
shootings.
not the same. Yeah, not the same kind of stuff. I guess just like when people running around with machetes and whatnot and attacking people around them.
I know.
It could be the same kind of thing, and just that
it's like
guns are relatively close. They're right there. Why not, right?
Right. Like, what if it is running amok? They're not terrorists. They're just running amok. Okay, the last one here, the cultural bound syndrome that I have is called Koro.
Koro?
It's really weird.
Spelling?
Koro. It's a delusional disorder in which an individual has an overpowering belief that their sex organs are retracting and will disappear despite the lack of any true long-standing changes to their genitals.
That's terrible.
It's also known as shrinking penis.
Of course.
Surprise.
So I'm guessing it mainly affects men.
It is listed in the DSM. So it is an actual thing.
So, and I'm guessing it mainly affects men.
Well, yes, but
I mean, can a woman's vagina retreat?
no. So when it occurs in women, I have this.
Where does it go?
Among females, the cardinal symptom is nipple retraction in the breast, generally into the breast as a whole. So they're thinking they're
as a whole or as a whole.
WHO.
Okay.
It's also commonly referred to as genital retraction syndrome.
That's a much more pleasant name than penile shrinking.
But you don't actually see it in the United States and Europe a lot. You mostly see it in Africa, Asia, and Eastern Europe. Actually, there's a...
And those countries place a lot of... There's a lot of history, like, say, not religiously, but like fertility is a big thing in those types of cultures.
Yes. Well, actually, I have something about that. That the feeling of impending death along with retraction has a strong cultural link with Chinese traditional beliefs. In general, Asians believe that Koro symptoms are fatal, while Western people don't.
Weird.
There's a famous anime character called Koro Sensei, and he looks like this.
We'll post that picture.
Basically, just a big yellow tentacle in a graduation cap and robe.
Oh. That's really interesting. I think because of what we were talking about, I think I might have come up with my topic for next time.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, so basically they feel like they're going inside their body.
That's terrible.
Oh, sorry, there is one more. And that's one more culturally bound syndrome that's called Lata. In Southeast Asia, it's a condition in which when people get scared or shocked, they suddenly start screaming, cursing, dancing, or uncontrollable laughter. I
guess that is a thing, though, but
I think that's
anywhere.
But
that's
like
just
this
people
is
being
like a little bit more extreme.
Okay.
Startle disorder is also what it's called. Like they go into hysterics, basically. Yeah. Like they can't calm down after they've been shocked.
Weird.
Also, profuse sweating sometimes.
Oh, me all the time. That's what I've got. I'm just always scared and sweating.
It is in the DSM, but it's under kind of a not otherwise specified disorder section. Right. It's not really a big section. It's like a hypersensitivity to being scared. I think I have this.
That may or may not be
I
my
have
fault.
a hypersensitivity to being scared. Don't scare me. I hate it.
Boo.
Nope. Oh. Yeah, so that's all the cultural bound syndromes I have. So we have like quite a few here. And this is only like really the tip of the iceberg.
Well, yeah, like you said, there's some that exist but just aren't named or classified probably.
Yeah, so like some of these are in the DSM, but some of them aren't.
Right.
So like it's... Well, and also like the DSM's still always changing and all that stuff. So
who knows what'll happen.
And really, is it a good like way to, I don't know, judge where disorders are? And I mean, I guess it is, but
we were talking about dread and stuff, and I was gonna make a comment about it, but I think like the impending feeling of dread. And doom.
I thought you were talking about dread, like Judge Dredd. Different thing.
Or dreads. I was going to talk about it, but maybe I'll just keep it for next time. Maybe that'll be my topic.
About what?
I was doing some research and I came across some stuff kind of to do with dread and doom.
Spoiler alert, dude.
A little bit of spoiler alert. Let's see. We'll see how I feel about it, and maybe I'll just tell you about it on our own kind of thing.
Haha, you guys don't get to hear about it.
We'll see, though. Or maybe I'm thinking maybe next time I'll do a trio. Yeah. Like the 3 small mini stories almost kind of thing.
Ooh, mini stories. It's just interesting to think that, like, everything that occurs in society is technically, like...
Well, everything, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and everything happens for a reason.
But I would be so interested to see more research about like this, like greasy sickness and running amok and like that other Arctic one and like their connection to possible like shootings and stuff. Like, what about the people that like take their van and they just run through like groups of people? Like, how is that not considered like a syndrome?
And
I mean, maybe it is.
See, and now I don't know if I should. I'm gonna just talk about it now. So there's an actual thing that has to do. So say, you know that feeling that you get when you want to turn. You think, oh, I could just turn this wheel and drive into all these people.
I've looked about that stuff before.
You are standing on the edge of a mountain or a cliff and feel like, oh, I could just totally jump into this right now.
Yeah. Or when you have like it's like a need for destruction.
Yeah, exactly. If you know what it is, please let us know.
Yeah, I know.
We're kind of dropping some hints. Maybe we won't talk about it, but if you know what it is,
do you know the
food
name?
for thought.
I forget the name of it.
I have it on my list of topics.
Yeah, there is a name for it. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it's like a human need.
It's a human thing, yeah.
We're like, I want to cause
the call of the void is what it's called.
That makes sense.
So maybe, if you want to look it up.
The void is calling me.
Well, welcome to the void. That's kind of what I've got between my head right now. Is not even soft brain, just the call of the void
is between my ears.
Yeah. That was a really good episode. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed it too.
Topics, I think.
Yep.
Inbreeding and culture brown syndrome.
One and the same.
What are we going to call your topic? We're going to call it inbreeding?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll think about it.
The inbreeding breakdown.
We'll add it. Well, I guess if you're listening to this, you'll obviously know what it's called. So,
I know.
Thanks for putting that together. That went real smooth today, I think. We're getting good. We're getting better.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sure. The more you do
Practice
something,
makes perfect.
the better you get at it.
For sure.
Right? But thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thanks for keeping your brain
Thanks
soft
for being
possible.
soft. And join us next time for another interesting episode of The Softbrains. We really need to get a outro intro song.
Boop, 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 boop. Soft brains.
All right. Bye.